Welcome to Be Customer-Led, where we'll explore how leading experts in customer and employee experience are navigating organizations through their own journey to be customer-led, and the actions and behaviors employees and businesses exhibit to get there. And now your host, Marbu Brown.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Be Customer-Led. This week, I'm going to finish up my conversation with Alorica co-CEOs Mike Clifton and Max Schwendner. At the conclusion of last week's episode, we had just talked about an Alorica end-to-end deployment of AI tools to augment human agents that reduce call handle time by 30 seconds per call. It encompassed AI augmentation with training, intake, troubleshooting, and just a variety of ways that came together to support agents. Well, there's so much more to come on this week's episode. We're going to cover topics like accent neutralization, real-time language conversion, and how skills for agents are changing in an environment where humans are augmented by AI. I assure you, you won't want to miss the gems that we dived into in this episode. So without any further ado, let's pick up right where we left off. So let me recap a little bit, see if I got all that was going on there, because it sounds like you used AI in training, helping agents to be able to do better diagnoses. You used AI on intake so that the folks could tell what kind of device and all of those kinds of things. You pushed information to the agents in real time to help them speed up resolution of the call. You used it in analytics to understand, disposition of calls and stuff like that. So I'm hearing about it being used in all these different ways, but there's definitely a human in the loop aspect to this as well, because they're still the agents who are working with the customer to resolve this call, but you actually shrunk the amount of time and so helped to solve the volume issue. I don't know if I got all of that, but
You got it.
I was trying to recap it. So, Max, it seems like you got something you want to chime in there.
No, yeah. The only thing I would add, and Mike's exactly right, what Mike described is, let's call it the feedback loop around production. If you think about the chain of events that happens in between when we hire someone or look for someone, all the way through that event, we've injected AI in every single aspect of our business. So when we go to look for people to recruit, there's an AI component or a module we've deployed there. When it comes to training, there's an AI module deployed there before they even hit production. What Mike described was in production, real use case of quick bursts of training using AI to improve their performance on the calls. Then post interaction, how the overall call is doing. There's an AI module to help with that aspect. And then further down, in terms of the management of the overall enterprise, there are more AI modules. So what Mike pulled out the centerpiece, right, which is the actual transactions we handle for our clients on a day-to-day basis. But we believe so wholeheartedly in the capabilities of AI used appropriately for the right use cases that we can improve the quality of our delivery, which is already excellent, but getting better every day. 2, improve our efficiency overall as a business. And 3, make our people more empowered and able to have long durations careers here and really learn how best to use AI. We have this thing called Alorica University at Alorica, where we have all sorts of educational courses for our agents or TLs, our operating managers, whatever the case may be. And I bet you could guess what the number one most taken series of classes is at Alorica, which is on AI, right? And so our folks are learning about AI, how to use it in their day-to-day jobs, and we are embracing it in ways that I think, to your point about early hype around AI, is how to actually get results and improve delivery leveraging AI. It's not just saying we consume X number of tokens in a month. That's not meaningful. What's meaningful is, are you performing or upgrading your performance for your clients and having a measurable impact? And we believe we are across every aspect of that supply chain as AI touches it.
Yep. So bottom line is the same things that you're sharing with the customers, or that you're deploying on behalf of the customers. You're also deploying them on behalf of yourself. so that, you've got like intimate awareness and experience around using these things in your own environment, right?
Sure. That's
Yeah.
right.
So let me ask you, I mean, like when AI is handling routine interactions, I mean, like, how do you see the skill set for the human agent changing? Like, what's it changing to become where, hey, a certain amount of this is being handled by automation? What's different for the human agents?
Maybe I'll start this one. So one of the things, like I mentioned before, we've noticed is a meaningful shift in AHT, right, or average handle time of transactions, which is going up as these transactions get more and more complex. I think what we're seeing and what our business really is increasingly turning into is we have to continue to foster a culture of learning and continuous training, right? Like as different products come out or as different problems occur, Mike's point is exactly right. Like we're leveraging tools to create real time trainings for people as they go through this process. So an agent that is only employed by Alorica for a short period of time before they actually are handling interactions, I think increasingly that's going to go away. And training times are going to lengthen as agents are asked to handle more complex interactions. And so what we will continually looking for are higher skilled or propensity for learning agents in the fullness of time. As they handle more complex interactions and more complex calls or chats or emails or whatever the other vehicle is, their knowledge base has to be deeper. And I think, one of the things that Mike and I really have been shown a lot of, kind of impressed by is impact of accent neutralization and other tools where it matters necessarily less what accent you have or language you speak as it does your propensity for learning and understanding or providing empathy. And so what I think if you think about it going forward, training times will likely increase, the depth of knowledge will increase, as will the side-by-side AI tools will increase as the continuous, kind of upskilling of that agent goes into the future. That's kind of, I think, my perspective.
We just finished a data package on kind of dimension and complexity, right? Like the capabilities so we're a bunch of data hounds, as you've probably figured out, but if you look across our complexity measurements, this is the work types we do. If you just normalize work types across the 7 vertical structures we've got, and you look at the impact of how we think of skilling on people, because we're a people business. At the end of the day, we have to figure out how to skill them. And we have 100,000+ people to walk from the left side of no AI to the right side of augmented AI. And that's a challenge that we've got. We're planning, and Max mentioned already, the human tools we built, the university side of our pushing efforts, the consumption of classes, is still not enough. So we decided to internally integrate AI into the daily job so that we would both a user and a use case of ourselves to be able to teach our people. Like there's 2 sides of this. There's the client delivered capability, and then there's our absorption capability. But the hypothesis we had was that the reality of transactions coming into our ecosphere would go up in complexity we'll say complexity, but think about it in terms of the depth of a transaction. A transaction could be on the surface of a quick customer service, check my balance. To Max's point, it goes away at some point. But the depth of that journey could go all the way to the spectrum of the full cycle. A client with a bill, a billing problem, a credit to be applied, a customer satisfaction survey, and an end result, right? The journey of the depth of a transaction will only cover more of the middle and back office functions as more of this is exposed. And the average handling time of a call is not necessarily the metric that matters anymore. The metric that matters was, did you get the client through the full cycle of the journey? Are they excited and happy at the end of it? If that's really the point we're trying to make, the depth of the transaction will continue to deepen. The ability for agentic AI and other AI tools will continue to deepen. And our human in the loop will get smarter. So the skills we're trying to adapt and push are prompt engineering, the ability for you to interact for intent, for the ability for you to understand empathy, because the models don't today. And even if we wanted to, they're getting better, but not good enough. The ability for you to augment with the right tools in the right time. So you have to know what to do. So a lot of different skills are there, and the measurement criteria of those skills are different, right? And we know that. We're trying to get them ready for that. But it's not a short journey. It's a long journey on that one.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it does give us some visibility into how things are changing. And as we were talking about AHT just now, and I'm thinking there's all of these routine things that are being taken off the table by automation. So they're not part of that average in the AHT anymore. And yeah, it really is something different at that point. Well, I've heard that you all have some really impressive results in terms of the call volumes that AI is handling for clients, the reduction in AHT that it's producing, the increase in customer conversion that it's delivering. Can you put some numbers to this for us and give us some of your favorite examples of how this has come to life in your deployments for clients?
So I'll start. If you just look at our voice augmentation capabilities, this would be harmonization and accent neutralization, and then language conversion real time, right? So speak on one side German, hear the other side English or Spanish. In both those cases, right? If you look at just in the neutralization of dialect, it's a measure for us on pure AHT. But the second measure is the quality of the call recording for analytical abilities, right? So two measures there. Did the client understand the conversation? Were they complimentary of the call itself? And then was the call able to be analyzed so that all the right intents can be measured and the analytics can be done? In both cases, there's an 18% to 20% reduction in AHT on harmonization of dialect. That is a 20% off the top, easy, almost very well proven that it can be 20% off the top. The conversation flows quicker, speed is quicker.
Yeah,
when it comes to
meaning that you have less of an issue where the two people are trying to understand each other because of the difference in accent or any of those kinds of things. You're taking 20% off the top just because you've got those things neutralized. People understand one another better. Conversation just goes smoother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the fastest thing is, sorry, did you repeat that? I didn't understand you. That just goes away. Like literally, that is the quickest thing that relieves the call. The second piece of and I'll let Max talk about the other metrics, on the language conversion, the first metric is, does it convert appropriately 99% of the time? The answer is yes, we need 99.9. So almost every language, you're going to see there's a maturity to a language and its profile learning over time where the models get smarter. And now the models are pretty much perfected. So you've got 75 to 80 languages that are, and now we're getting the nuances of languages, right? In India, there's certain nuances to different territories where language and dialect really are hard. Those are starting to become reality. So we've seen about 21% to 22% of an AHT reduction, but that's not why people buy this. What people buy the translation language for is the economics of pulling in a live person to a call, and the impact of waiting for them to join the call drives AHT up by almost 5 minutes. That entire 5-minute dialogue need is gone. So by definition, the call is reduced by 5 minutes, and the cost of that person is now a per penny transaction for the user, not for the customer, not necessarily, another live human joining the call. So in both of those cases, if you look at the pure AHT and the reduction of that 5-minute need for an onboarding of another agent live to do the translation, and you look at the ability for the call to flow with CSAT on AHT, both of them are significant reductions. So depending on if people are using third-party services to augment there's a massive economic benefit for them on that second one. Max has a couple more.
Yeah, those are great on both accent neutralization and harmonization. I think the other stuff that we've seen is when we've been asked to deploy AI to, as we've talked about before, handle, let's call it transactions of moderate to simple complexity that are shorter in duration. We've seen anywhere from 50+% reduction in volumes on the very simple side where someone's done nothing from an automation perspective to less than that. I would say what's interesting, though, is in those cases, what we end up seeing is more often than not, the transactions themselves will be handled or deflected, but the folks that were previously handling those will be upskilled to move on to more complex interactions. So while the client saves there, they're reinvesting that savings somewhere else. to have a better customer experience for those complex interactions. The other place that I would say we are seeing a big impact is around, to Mike's point on the having real-time translation. The lost in translation effect doesn't happen, right? Where the translator thinks someone says one thing and then they're translating back and forth and the call is much longer. I think the final point I would make is the agent assist capabilities that we have and that we've partnered with our clients on really have seen a marked increase in sales conversions and support, right, where it measures sentiment analysis, propensity to buy, paying history, things like that, where, you could see conversion rates increase by, 10, 20, 30% as those capabilities are. And the reason why I'm giving you a couple different numbers is because not all clients are the same and not all stand-by-side tools are the same. Not all client bases are the same. So there's a wide range of the efficacy or impact of AI technologies on handle times, conversions, or just AHT in general, volume, that I would say that there's a range to these things. But broadly, the more technology we can integrate and be in the loop with, our clients are seeing kind of material shifts. And we're seeing a consolidation into Alorica as the partner of choice because we're able to be that agent that's of that higher complexity with the AI tool, not just the next person up.
So as we delve into this a little bit more, we just got time for maybe a couple more questions. Do you think that there are some tasks that should never be automated in customer service? I mean, what would they be?
That's an interesting question. I always like the term never and always, right? You should always never use the term, right? Listen, I think never is a hard word to use. AI has proven its ability to continue to improve on a variety of different metrics. I think of AI's suitability and use cases as a continuum. And it's not just what the capabilities of AI it is, it's also the capabilities of the people, our clients' customers interacting with AI. And there's a familiarity or a comfort with AI, not only that differs by client type, but by age, by demographic. And so I would say there's a continuum of transactions. At the simplest are routine transactions that people don't have a tremendous amount of emotional stake.
Attachment to. Yeah.
Yeah. So those, like I used the example before of, where's my package, right? Like that's probably a transaction that candidly, Mike and I want to do as little of that as possible because we want to focus on the more advanced things. Those things I think are very ripe for automation. Even stuff as I'd like to return something. That, as you kind of blur into the kind of more complexity, those are all transactions that go. Now, let's go to the far end of the other spectrum. I think someone has taken over my bank account and I suspect there's fraud. I would imagine that a bank or a credit card company, or even in healthcare, would not want something as, personally attached to someone's personal financial situation as that to be fully automated. Now, parts of it could be automated, like, identity verification, things like that. But the actual process of walking through why you're nervous, scared, concerned, having human empathy, even if it's with a side-by-side that's able to do lots of different things. Again, I don't think there's anything that can be should never have an AI component to it, but the actual interaction itself, many, I can just giving that as one use case. But the more highly charged emotional, the more highly charged emotional use cases are ones that I think are it's a long way away from being suitable for automation. That's what I would.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is the easiest answer to that question is it depends on the client's business model. If they want to be a fully AI native company, they could create almost everything to be handled by AI with the only thing on guardrails is how do you want to be perceived in the industry? If you're okay with it's fully AI, and I mean, there are many companies that start up with just an email address for anybody on the customer service side, and that's it. They've done quite well, and they're happy with that outcome. But to Max's point, I think it's really on the decision of the business and how do they want to be perceived in the brand. I think if you look at the largest online retailer in the world right now, if they could automate everything, they probably would, and they don't. And a part of it is brand protection, part of it is customer service, and part of it is just knowing your clients and having a conversation with them. And I think there's still going to be those threads in every industry out there.
Well, I'm the customer obsession guy. I wrote the book Blueprint for Customer Obsession. And I kind of think that if you obsess over your customers, you're probably not going to have everything fully automated because you need to engage personally. You need to deliver exceptionally, and you need to connect emotionally. And some of those things definitely require a human element to them. You wouldn't have those, just completely automated from an AI perspective. Well, look, let's use this question to wrap up. I mean, when you start thinking about the metrics that you're using to measure the success of the AI with humans approach, what are the metrics you're paying attention to? And what's the most underrated metric in CX that nobody ever talks about?
We love metrics, Marbu. You know that, right? Like, so there isn't a metric we don't talk about. So I don't know what I would not talk about.
The most underrated metric and never to be talked about. That's an interesting question. Oh, boy.
I'll go first on this one. So to your point about being customer obsessed, right? Like, and not to sound too brandy, like, we want every interaction with Alorica to be an insanely great one. And so I think the number that people like to look at is length of call or interactions handled or interactions solved. But at the end of the day, if you're generating a negative customer experience or your CSAT or your NPS on your calls is not a primary area of concern, that's a strategic choice. I think it's one that you should look at and determine whether that's one that you really do care about. Because I think a lot of people say they care about it, but don't actually track to it. And they're more interested in, sales conversion or length of a call or how many calls can be handled or interval compliance, every one of those metrics. I know I hate all of them. I'm kidding. But I think at the end of the day, if you really do want to have an insanely great customer experience, what the customers say and do really does matter. And I think the challenge with the model that Mike and I are espousing is it won't be evenly applied, right? What Mike may want as his customer experience is probably different than what you want, Marbu. It's probably different than what I want as my customer experience. And I think the companies that are going to get it right will have this kind of meet you where you want to be met approach to CX. So some things will be very automated, some things will be very human-based, and some things will be in the middle, again, based on customers' buying behaviors and what they want. And I think that will lead to increased CSAT, NPS, and overall people saying, like, imagine if this was the outcome of the invention of AI and integration with CX that, man, I called, my company XYZ that does this for me. I'm never going to switch now to any other company that does XYZ for me because I had such a great experience. That seems like a far way away to me today, but I don't think it's that far away when you actually start to use technology to mass personalize and make people solve better experiences. That I think is that's a long way around the mountain to say the tools to measure customer satisfaction and whether or not they're actually going to refer to that interaction with a brand as something they want to promote to their friends and their family.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me time to think about it, Max, so I thought about it.
I tried. I riffed.
We work with each other well there. So I think Max and I were with a client actually in Jamaica last week, and we got a chance to sit down and just sort of understand the metrics they were talking about. But they kept coming back to one thing, which was we would love to give better insight to our business people. Not just the AHT and the CSAT, because CSAT can be a measurement that isn't necessarily a predictor of customer retention or upsell or cross-sell ability. It's just they were happy with the call, and being happy with the call will solve my problem, but it truly isn't a very good metric. But they kept coming back to, we would love better brand sentiment. We would love the ability for us to understand what people are going to say about our brand, the model, the version number. We need better there. Like, we can't have everybody just get off the phones and have a town hall or stand-up meeting and collect sentiment, because it doesn't do us any good. But subtleties on calls about why people love working with us, or why they love to buy the same thing over and over in different model years from us, or the features they didn't like, or the color it didn't come in. We need more of that. We don't get enough of it. To me, I think we've reached the point in our maturity that with AI and tools, that is a byproduct of just analyzing a large volume of data and giving people that insight that isn't necessarily thought about today. But I do think the people who are customer obsessed, like your book, the Blueprint does, actually look at those insights to drive placement of product and growth. And I do think our industry, as much as it's human related today, will be human related tomorrow because it is going to turn into a massive sales engine. It is the way of the future, right? It's people talking to people and being very satisfied with their experience enough to be able to say, I'd buy more. And I think the better offensive weapons about understanding those sentiments to give marketers and business people insights is where we're missing a lot of what could be done very easily today with tools. And I think that's where we'd spend the money if we were running one of these groups.
Well, it's interesting. Unfortunately, the time has flown by so quickly, because otherwise I would say, let's talk about the customer obsession barometer, because that's something that we put together. And part of the way it looks at things is it looks at not whether people are likely to recommend you, but whether they have recommended you 5+ times in the last 12 months. And so we've got something we call the obsessed customer. And you were kind of alluding to stuff like that when you started talking about the brand sentiment, because it's like, have these people been excited enough to go out and recommend you? Are they excited enough to come back and buy from you? But we're going to have to save that discussion for another time because we're all out of time. So I want to thank the two of you for spending the time with me on Be Customer Led. Can you just quickly tell people how to get a hold of you?
Ooh, that's a good one.
LinkedIn is the fastest way to get a hold of me for sure. I think Max as well, but we're available on LinkedIn. I'm just going to do a shameless plug that you can cut out later, which is Mike and Max have a podcast that we have, which we do a similar thing, but we really focus on our internal messages. So if you want to hear that, it'd be great to hear that as well.
Yeah, no, cool. That's exactly right.
Well, thank you all for joining me on Be Customer Led. And I want to thank our audience for spending the time with us and listening to us. And I want to invite all of you who are listening to come back again for the next episode of Be Customer Led, because again, you're going to get some nuggets in there that you can take and put to use right away to help your business elevate its posture on customer experience. And so thank you for joining Be Customer Led. Come back again. But for right now, that's all, folks.
Thanks for listening to Be Customer Led with Marbu Brown. We are grateful to our audience for the gift of their time. Be sure to visit us at becustomerled.com for more episodes. Leave us feedback on how we're doing or tell us what you want to hear more about. Until next time, we're out.